Welcome to Tabs on Tap. I am Tabitha Hassell. Hopefully, my sound has continued. Thank you all again for being so patient with me and for hanging in there while I'm learning. It's a learning curve, as most of you know. It is a learning curve to to figure out all of the workings of podcasting when you've never produced a podcast before. And I have apologized so many times, and I'm probably have lost so many potential listeners because of all the technical issues. And I've had technical issues every show I've ever been on, even with producers. We've had technical issues, but at least when there's technical issues and you have a producer, they can kind of work on things and the show goes on. But when it's just me, that's a whole nother story. So I really do appreciate all of your patience. I keep telling myself, and I was talking to a friend over the weekend, and I was saying the same thing to them. I mean, 6 months from now, I'm going to look back and there will still be technical issues because that's just electronics. If it involves electronics, technical things, there are going to be technical issues from time to time. And thank you, Todd, for saying it's not my fault. I really have no idea what happened today. Everything, all my settings were the same. I did not touch anything all weekend. When I went to set up the show, I knew something was different. For some reason, I used Restream, and I have no idea why. But some days I go in to create the show and it looks one way. Other days I go in to create a show and it looks a different way. And I'm pressing all the buttons and doing all the same stuff. So maybe I need to call Restream and find out what in the world is going on. Good morning, Glusna from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So happy to have you. And Beatrice, I'm sorry, I can't even talk today. It is such a Monday, such a Monday. But you know what? It is such an important Monday. It really is. Not only do we have voting, taking place across the country in different states, Missouri, and, for one. Good morning, Michelle. But had you guys heard, my first episode before I, didn't have any sound or before my sound was messed up, the world is on fire. This to me is one of the most pivotal days we may have and have had for a really long time. You're going to hear the word recession. Look at the stock market. While we've been sitting here working out sound, I see all these messages coming in. The stock market is crashing, and it's been worse. There's no question about it. I'm not saying the sky is falling, but you know why this is happening is because there's so much going on in the world, so much going on. It's more than just unemployment numbers. We're going to get into that. I want to talk about the uprisings taking place all across the country, the world, sorry, not the country, all across the world. Bangladesh, we have the UK. Whoever thought you'd see a civil war in the UK before you did right here in the United States? I mean, right now, taking place for what, 2, 3 days in a row now, we have citizens out in the streets fighting migrants. I mean, that's actually happening, and it's getting out of control. And of course, the prime minister, all he wants to do is blame the citizens. It's never the migrants' fault now, is it? It's crazy. And Kim, we'll talk about the governor race. I don't have as much to say about the lieutenant governor, but governor we can definitely talk about because I know Bill Eigel, I know Ashcroft, obviously the top two folks to talk about in the state of Missouri. And, I want to talk about Iran. That's going to be the biggest topic anywhere today. I had such a hard time sleeping because I really think we are at that pivotal point of World War III. And I know that sounds crazy again. I don't want to say the sky is falling because hopefully we can pray and pray that things work out and the situation is de-escalated. I don't see de-escalation taking place. I see escalation taking place. And I'm going to get into all of these things. I want to talk more towards the end of the show. I know I'm starting really late because I've had all these issues, but the good thing about a podcast is it really doesn't matter. I can talk all day long if I want. So, so we'll talk about some of those different things. Phone line. The show now has a phone line. So we're going to have phone calls up and running. And in the meantime, if you want to text me, you can text the show line. And tomorrow I will start streaming this phone number. It's 314 5462677. And that could have maybe had something to do with my audio problems, because I have been attempting, well, I didn't actually attempt to connect the phone, but for some reason electronics these days, they try to connect themselves. So when I was logging on this morning, it kept saying, "Do you want to connect? Do you want to connect?" I kept saying no, but I don't think it listened to me. So the show line, you can text this, you can call this number, you can do anything you want. Send to me any topics you'd like to talk about. And at some point, we'll have you guys calling in if you want to. It's 314-546-2677. And Beatrice, but Kirby said no escalation. Well, big lies, right? Is all of this part of the master plan? I mean, what did they have? Plan A, they weren't able to imprison Trump, right? Plan B, they weren't able to bankrupt Trump, right? Plan C, they weren't able to assassinate Trump, right? So now all of a sudden, here we are. Plan D, war. So we're definitely going to get into that. And then later on, I want to talk about positivity, because I think we all need a little positive thinking in our lives. And I am one who firmly believes in the power of prayer. I firmly believe in the power of positive energy. I absolutely do believe if you can figure out a way within yourself to get rid of all of the negative thoughts, the negative energy, if you can dispel all of any type of negative feeling you have for other people, for different situations, and you can calm your inner self, and you only put out positive vibes and talk about positive things and put out those positive thoughts, I absolutely do believe that you will only have positive coming back to you. Any little fragment of negativity we put out there comes back to us tenfold, no question about it. And the same goes with positive energy. And you hear people talk about how, well, if you really want something to happen, you can make it happen by the power of thought, or by the power of prayer. Me personally, I think the power of prayer and the power of thought and positive energy, it's all intertwined. It's all intertwined. So, something that I'm going to play a little video for you guys later on in the show, and we're all going to try to get some positive vibes before the day continues, because, man, we are going to need them. We're going to need them. There is, oh my gosh, there's so much going on. It is crazy. We have the stock market just crashing today. Every headline today is going to say recession, recession, recession. And I think we all need to be prepared for that. It could be worse. It could get worse. We're going to talk about that. But my gosh, what's going on in the world? Are we going to be in the midst of World War III? It could happen. It is probably closer than any of you think. Good morning, Darren. It probably is so much closer. As we know, as we know what happened, Israel, in retaliation for of course, the killings that happened in Israel, for the Hamas, of course, kidnapping Israeli hostages. There's been so much going on. I don't have to rehash that. We all know the horrific things that took place in Israel a short time ago. And we all know that since that time, Israel, Netanyahu's angry. That man is angry. And it doesn't matter what anyone in the world says, it doesn't matter what any world leader has to say to him. He is going to get revenge, and that's what he's doing. He's getting revenge. And as we know, that Israel last week, they took out, there's no better way of saying it, Hamas leader Dr. Ismail Haniyeh. They took out Hezbollah leader Fouad Shakir. And both of these men, while they are leaders of these so-called terror groups, the problem is that, as we've said so many times, there's always somebody waiting in the wings to take over, right? I never understand why any country wants to take out the head of any terror group. To me, it's completely pointless, because you can take one out, and guess what? There's another one that steps up to take their place. I have no idea why Netanyahu did this. I'm guessing to send a message. But what message does it send really outside of just escalating violence, across the world? And I absolutely defend Israel. I absolutely believe they have every right to defend themselves. What happened in their country is beyond horrific. And I don't, I do understand the anger, not only of Netanyahu, but of Israeli citizens. I understand the fear. And I do wish, though, that they had a little bit more of a diplomatic way of dealing with things versus what we're seeing. Because what's happening and what has been happening is that Israel's continued bombing in Gaza, it's angering just about every world leader outside of Europe. All of the countries involved with BRICS, all of the countries that are non-Europe, non-G7, non-NATO, they're all backing, almost all of them, without doubt, are backing Iran. They're backing Lebanon. These countries are backing. I was going to read a list to you today of all of the countries who are backing Iran in this situation, but the list was so long that it's just easier to say that any country that is not the United States or Europe, they are all backing Iran. And I hope you understand how significant that is. It's extremely significant. And what ends up happening when, let's say, Israel took out these two leaders of Hezbollah, took out the leader of Hamas, all of these countries, they coordinate attacks. So now we have Hezbollah, now we have Hamas and Iran, all and likely Yemen as well. The Houthis in Yemen are probably part of it. They are all going to coordinate an attack. And we can do our best. We can do our best to try to de-escalate, but there's nothing we can do. And I have so much on this that I want to talk about. I'm going to try not to get too far into it just because it's world news. Some of you care, some of you may not care, but I think it's the most important news we could possibly talk about today because I think we, the United States, I think we are absolutely preparing for a major war. All the signs are there. I had a hard time sleeping last night. I really expected Iran to conduct their strikes overnight. They didn't, but it's probably going to happen today. I would say any minute is a good possibility. That's how close things are. So, Iran, they have said retaliation is coming. There's nothing we can do to stop it. They are literally telling us there's nothing we can do to stop what's coming. And not only have they threatened to attack Israel, but they have threatened to attack all of Israel's allies. Anyone that has assisted Israel in their attacks against Hamas, against Hezbollah, uh, against of course, the attack that killed Hania in Tehran, they are they told us retaliation's coming. So over the weekend, Antony Blinken, he initiated a conference of world leaders, and he really tried to put some pressure on Iran to ask them to retaliate a little softer. And I am not kidding, retaliate a little softer. We know you're going to retaliate. We know you're going to do something, but do it a little easy, right? Iran is not going to do anything easy. I've talked about them for years. Iran is like the little barking dog where they say all of these different threats. They're always talking, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to attack you, we're going to bomb you, we're going to do all these different things, we're creating nuclear weapons. And I think they want people to fear them. I really do. I think that their line of their strategy is to bark the loudest and hopefully no one attacks them. And of course, they have proxy armies and different things going on, but so do we. So does every country. I don't put too much into the proxies outside of the fact that the proxies are here. They are here in our country in the United States. I guarantee you, I will promise you, I will bet you on my life. They already have proxies here in the United States in every major city because we know these people have been caught coming across the border. They've been apprehended, and think how many haven't been apprehended. If you say, oh, we caught 5 Iranian terrorists crossing the border, well, how many came through that they didn't catch? Probably 20 times as much. Tara says, how many Iranian sleepers have come over our southern? Exactly. We're thinking the same today, Tara. Exactly the same. It is happening. They are here. Is it really going to get to that? Are they going to activate the sleeper cells here in the United States? They could. They absolutely could. Iran has always very publicly stated, we will not launch the first strike. We believe in peace. But if you attack us, we will respond, and we will respond in a way that history will always remember. And that leads me to believe that in Iran so far, if you go back through history and you look, anytime they say they're going to do something, they're pretty serious folks over there. And so it's just a shame because whatever is going to happen next, all of all of the world will be against the United States and Europe. And that really does worry me. It got as crazy as, do you know there's a group called the PMF? And they are Iran backed, their Popular Mobilization Forces is their technical name. They call them PMF. Well, they released a photo. It was a photoshopped image of drones over Israel. Now, again, who knows with my technical issues if I'm going to be able to show you this, but I want to. So we'll see if this pops up. I can see it. Hopefully, you can see it. This was created by the PMF. And I want you to take a good look at this. This is photoshopped. And this shows drones over the coast of Israel. And what this message said, what it says there that we can't read, it says, leave your cities. Leave your cities because we are coming. And I think that's personally a little bit frightening. Leave your cities because we are coming. Is it a warning? Is it propaganda? I don't know. I don't know, but it's enough to worry me. Now we've had a lot going on. A lot of our world leaders are talking to Israel, they're talking to Netanyahu, they're trying to calm things down. We're doing our best to talk to Russia, make deals. I have no doubt that prisoner exchange, that was absolutely an exchange of assets, and that was prompted by Russia. We are trying to do anything we can to keep Russia on our side, because once Iran fires this retaliatory strike, which they will do. We don't want Russia and China and all of the allies of Iran coming after us because they know we are involved, and we're getting more involved all the time. And I'm going to get into that too. So, White House Deputy National John Feiner, we all know who John Feiner is. He said, this is his literal statement, we are preparing for every possibility. Nothing's off the table, preparing for every possibility. And I think we as citizens of the United States, I think have to we have to also be prepared for any possibility. Tara says the thought with that video of the drones is that they were trying to provoke Israel to strike first. That's a possibility, Tara, and it's certainly something Israel is contemplating. Netanyahu had a meeting yesterday, and that meeting was about exactly that. They were trying to determine if Iran is in fact going to carry out a major strike. They all know there will be a retaliation. It's just a matter of whether it will be a smaller operation or a very large operation, a historical operation, on the side of Iran. And Israel, Netanyahu, they sat down. I saw a little bit of the meeting that took place, and they were just trying to determine exactly what Iran is going to do. And they stated that if their intelligence tells them that Iran is going to strike a major blow to Israel or to any of Israel's allies, that they are going to strike Iran first. And there is no doubt in my mind, Tara, that's probably exactly what Iran wants. They would love for Israel to strike first. And then that absolutely gives them to go ahead. And then at that point, no one will be able to say that it wasn't justified when Iran attacks Israel and maybe some of Israel's allies. On our end, we're not helping anything. Netanyahu is definitely not helping anything. Over the weekend, Israel carried out several more strikes into Gaza, killing many civilians. I unfortunately watched a video of that, which I'm not going to show you. And Israel also hacked Iranian infrastructure. They hacked their internet and some other of their services. This took place over the weekend. Todd says, how much of our tax money is going to Iran to stop a big response? I don't know. Are we giving money to Iran? There's a good possibility because we usually give money to everyone, don't we? Especially Biden. Here's the thing. I think we have seen with the Biden Harris administration that they tend to support Hamas and Hezbollah. In the history of the United States, Democrats have always supported monetarily Hamas and Hezbollah. Trump changed that plan. As we know, he ended that funding. He took our tax money and gave it directly to the Palestinian people. He still funded, but it was to the Palestinian people. And he rerouted around those channels where Hamas was in charge of the money. Now, Biden, of course, ended that program and started funding the money right back to Hamas again, and then left it up to Hamas to distribute the funds to the Palestinian people. So it's very well known that we do pay just about everyone. And Todd says, we're paying them off. We could pay Iran to not strike, but I don't think Iran's care. I don't think that any amount of money would keep Iran from carrying out this retaliation. Now it's about honor. Israel attacked someone, killed someone, a Hamas leader, right there in Tehran, the center of Iran. They are not going to let that go. And, and we're right in the middle of it, of course. So we had Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, another meeting with Israel. This time it was with the Minister of Defense, Yoav Gallant. We talked a little bit about him last week. So Lloyd Austin stated very publicly that the United States, have an ironclad commitment to Israel. We are not backing down. We are going to back Israel regardless of the outcome. So that just drags us in a little bit further. And it's definitely a little bit different than last week when we had Antony Blinken, who was really backpedaling and trying to stay out of it, saying we had nothing to do with the strike against Hania in Tehran. We were not part of that. We were part of it, but he was doing his best to backpedal. Then they worked out a deal with Russia, made the prisoner swap, I think kind of hoping to lessen the blow a little bit, which is, I think, all we can do at this point is hope to lessen the blow. But I really do think that we, the United States, we know that we're not going to be able to lessen that blow by very much. So what are our options? If we cannot talk Iran down, and I don't think we can, then what do? We prepare. And that's exactly what we are doing. We are preparing to go to war. And those are heavy words. It's a heavy sentiment, but it is exactly what's happening because, as much as we hate to say it or think about it, we have to look at the actions of what we're doing. As I told you guys last week on Friday, we have the USS Theodore Roosevelt in the Middle East, along with their amphibious warships. We have 4,000 Marines that went along with the USS Theodore Roosevelt. We have right now, at this very minute, we are moving more troops into the Middle East. We are preparing for war. In fact, we've committed. This is what's even more telling. We have committed 1,800 2,000-pound BOMBS. I know I can't say that word. Mark 84s to Israel. We have committed 1,700 Mark 82 kabooms to Israel. We're in it. We're in it till the end, and our commitment with Israel will continue. And it's a tough one for me because I don't think we should be in it. I think that it's not our business. It's I hate what happened in Israel. I absolutely support their decision to defend themselves, but we have to stay out of these types of conflicts. We, the United States, we don't belong in any of the conflict that's going on in the Middle East. I understand, again, the anger, the fear the Israelis are feeling. I understand the anger of Netanyahu. I understand that they need to protect themselves and their countries. I understand. It is not our battle. It's not our battle. I do not want our children over in the Middle East fighting terrorists again. I don't. It's a failed operation every single time. We cannot win against them. We just can't. We're not ready. Our government has weakened our military. We are not ready for war. I know we're getting ourselves ready for war, but we are not ready for war. And I really fear for what's going to happen. We as a country under the Biden Harris administration, we are weak. We are so much weaker than where we were with Trump. We have people streaming across our southern border, thousands of people a day, and we only know a tiny percentage of the apprehensions that come through. We don't see the real flood. For the first time, I think in history, we're seeing massive numbers now coming through the northern border. They don't even talk about that on the news. The northern border. All of a sudden, guess what? Terrorists coming across the northern border. We're surrounded. And I can bet you that we had that Iran, Hamas, Hezbollah, they have sleeper cells all across our country in every major city. They have been waiting for that call. We've been talking about this for years. Darren says, "Here comes martial law." I hope not. I hope it doesn't get to that point. It really does. It really does worry me because we're just right in the middle of it, and I think that Iran is also preparing for a major war. I think Iraq is getting prepared. I know yesterday, I have a note about it here somewhere. There was a VIP plane that went into Jordan, and I believe it was carrying the commander of the central US Central Command. And that goes to tell us that they're making plans. They are in the Middle East. They are making plans. Yesterday, our former US Air Base in Al Faw, Iraq, southern Iraq, was bombed. And am quite certain, in my own opinion, you don't have to take my word for it. I'm speculating that the reason why they're bombing, them being probably proxies, are bombing that former Air Force, I cannot talk today, base, because they don't want us coming back. They do not want us coming back into Iraq and, waging our war from there. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be very ugly. Tara says it will never end. I'm with you, Tabitha. I support Israel's right to exist and defend themselves, but I'm tired of the U.S. fighting everyone's battles to our own detriment. It's always to our own detriment, isn't it? It's always to our own detriment. And I will never believe that all of this just happened by mistake. Right before the election, I will never believe all this happened by mistake, because one of the things we've been talking about for how long now was that, they were either going to attempt to kill Trump or they were going to start a war to throw in, wartime powers. And of course, will there even be an election? I don't even know. We've all been talking about this, and now here we are. Kathy, that's been going on for a very long time, coming through Maine, Vermont, New York. Y- Yes, but and all that also, it's really worrisome. And while, Kathy, that's been going on for a very long time, there might have been a couple here or there. It started more last year. Prior to that, there were very few people coming across the northern border. But now all of a sudden we're facing hundreds of people crossing our northern border. And that has not really happened in the past, at least not until the past year. So, Dottie, arms shipments to Ukraine, just a way to take them off the books and supply the sleepers here. No question. A lot of countries are starting to withdraw their support of Ukraine, and we've got to we got to get our heads in order here in our country. We've got to focus on us. That's never going to happen, but we need to focus on us. All we do, we give all of our tax money to all of these other countries. We've given so much to Ukraine that we are such a weak country because of it. We are a weak country. And I don't know how we're ever going to recover. I don't. I have no idea how we're ever going to recover from so much of this. We're we're putting ourselves in a very vulnerable place, and it really worries me when we start putting ourselves in a vulnerable place when it comes to our troops. I know a lot of people, and I know you guys do. Might be some of you. You have children who are in the military, and right now, at this very minute, while we're having this show, our U.S. service members are going into the Middle East by the thousands. By the thousands, we are preparing for an all-out war. I think it's kind of, how does the saying go? hope for the best, prepare for the worst. We are definitely preparing for the worst. And I think that as the days go on, we're going to see a lot more take place. I don't know how we're ever going to, I don't know how we're ever going to get out of it, and all we can say, do you think, I'm very curious what you guys think, was this with intent? Israel is our ally. Is it possible that we, the United States, and Netanyahu came together with a master plan to bring us into war prior to our election? I know that sounds really far fetched. You're probably going to think I'm crazy for even speculating such a thing, but I think if most of us who've studied history of the United States, we know how we operate, don't we? It's all war games. And a lot of people will say, well, they wouldn't do that because they would never risk the lives of our troops. They would never risk the lives of our citizens or the Israeli citizens. And I'm going to tell you right now, if that's how you feel, you are dead wrong. Dead wrong. They do not care about us at all. We are just pawns. We're just minor casualties. I could tell you what, Iran could wipe out half of our country. And the folks that really matter, they're down in their bunkers, aren't they? They're not worried about us. And whenever they play these war games, they don't care about us or our lives. If there was an attack right here in our own soil right now from one of these sleeper cells, life goes on, right? For those folks, it just goes on. They'll go hide in their bunkers and they don't worry about us at all. Dottie says humans are fodder. I mean, what, 300 and something million people in the United States? What does it hurt to lose a few thousand? I'm sure that's exactly what they think. And I mean, and is Harris prepared for a war? Let's just say, I think we all believe that Trump will never be elected. Are are we prepared for a war under a Harris administration? I don't think so. I know she's not going to be the one running the show if that's the case, but I don't think we're prepared. Bill says war creates money. It absolutely creates money. Every member of Congress, at least I would say the vast majority, if we go to war, they become wealthier. It lines their pockets, right? We have Lockheed Martin and all these other big companies. Well, guess what? Those folks buy stock to Lockheed Martin and all of these other big manufacturers. And they all profit from war. War is money. What happens? Look at today. What did I open the show with? I said recession. Look what's happening to the stock market. What do you think brings the stock market out of a recession? A war does. A war. It's crazy to think that, but it absolutely does. War makes everyone wealthier but us, the people, right? And so nothing, yeah, Tara says Lockheed stock is soaring. Of course it is soaring. Of course it is soaring. Uh, and that's exactly what it's about, isn't it? It's about money. And it's so sad to think that we we go about our lives every day. We get up, we go to work, we take care of our family. I know me, I get up, I do the show, I do some other work, you make dinner, just the typical things anyone else does. And all the while, my life is completely insignificant to our government, completely insignificant. And the other 300 million people in our country, all insignificant. It doesn't matter what any of us think, and it really worries me, Harris being in command. If Trump, let's say, wins the election in November, provided that there is election, he will put an end to all of this. I mean, all of these things we're talking about, none of this is going to happen. He would contact the Ayatollah over in Iran and he would say, hey, we're going to drop an MOAB on your country. We're going to obliterate you. We're going to wipe you from the map if you even think about retaliating. And I really do think that would put the fear in Iran and all of this would go away overnight, be gone, because they know that Trump will do it. That's just it. They know he will do it. Now, what are we doing right now under the Biden administration? We're trying to make deals. We're not telling them that, hey, if you retaliate, we're going to blow you to smithereens. Nope, they're not saying that. They're like, will you bomb us a little softer? I kid you not. That's exactly what this meeting said. It said, we know you're going to retaliate, but hey, will you just take it easy on us? I mean, what in the world is going on? What in the world is going on? That's what I want to know. And Iran, by the way, they've also warned other Arab countries that if any Arab country attempts to intervene, they will become a target. So that's what tells me Iran is very serious about this retaliation and what they're going to do. Your guess is as good as mine. I do not know. What I do know is I do think that today is going to be a very pivotal day. I think that something's going to happen today. I really thought it was going to happen overnight, so I do think it'll be today, tomorrow at the very latest. So we don't have long to wait to see what happens. It's going to happen very, very quick. Todd says gas prices may go up soon. All the prices are going to go up soon, all of them. And we're going to talk about recession and the stock markets and what happens when the fear of war, comes into play. What happens when the fear of recession comes into play? When we look at unemployment rates, and there's going to be a lot to talk about. It's going to be a really crazy week. And yes, I am definitely going to talk about the coup in Bangladesh because an extremely important story today as well. And I have a video to play about Bangladesh as well. There's just so much going on around the world. And you know what? For you, Minaj, I will talk about Bangladesh because let's see here. Here we go. Bangladesh. I've got a video here. Bangladesh, there's been a lot going on in Bangladesh for quite some time. Some very serious protests taking place. And from what I read yesterday is PM Sheikh Hasina has fled the country. And I'm going to show you this video of protesters. And if you're from Bangladesh, you might have a little bit more to say about it than I do. You might know about more that's going on than what I know. But I will tell you that this, from what I understand, is about an end. Protesters want an end to the government quota system, for government jobs. And I don't know everything about the quota system in Bangladesh for government jobs, and maybe somebody can fill us in. But over 300 people, protesters, have been killed, and that includes 14 police. And the protests have become this is what happens when people have had enough. When people have had enough, this is what happens. And Manoj is from India. When people have had enough, look at what's happening in the UK right now. Those people have had enough. And in the UK, we're going to get into that and play some videos there as well. The people in the UK, they are tearing down migrant hotels. They're breaking out the windows. They're pulling these people out. They're fighting in the streets. It is a civil war right now taking place in the UK, whether you want to call it that or not. Bangladesh, what's taking place there, everyone needs to pay attention because this could happen to any of us. This is what happens when people have had enough. What you saw in that video, that was protesters breaking into the home of the Prime Minister, Sheikh Hasina. And Minaj says I'm wrong. He said the Chinese instigated the protests, that it's radical elements versus political establishment. And you know what? I will take your word for it. I will absolutely take your word for it. It is the same, though. When people have had enough, guess what happens? They take to the streets. And I'm going to play some videos of what's happening in UK as well. And Minaj, I hope you enlighten us all because I'll tell you what, I would love to know more about what's going on in Bangladesh because this again is a system that is going to continue to change. And yes, Bangladesh has also been invaded by Islamicists, just like UK, just like the United States, just like most Western countries. It's a horrific situation, and I think we're going to see these uprisings all across the world. So I'm going to play some videos here from the UK because, again, I absolutely believe civil war in the UK. I never thought we would see this coming. The first video I'm going to play is citizens, civilians, just like you and I, and they have had enough. Just like Minaj is saying here, they have had enough of migrants coming into their country, and they've changed. These people have come into their country welcomed by the government. These are not illegals. These people have been welcomed by the government to come in. And a very, very far left government that has taken over. Maybe that's what's happening in Bangladesh too. I don't know if they've allowed these Islamicists to come into Bangladesh legally or illegally, and this is exactly what happens. And in the UK, civilians have had enough. They are going to migrant hotels, breaking out windows, bringing these people out. And then of course we have the flip side where we have the migrants who have taken up axes, swords, machetes taken to the streets and harming civilians. So it's a pretty crazy scene here.
Push back!
Bin's going, she's gone. Bin's up, bin's up.
Come on, boys!
That bin's up. That bin's up now. Bin's up.
Go on!
Push him back.
Get round it!
Same here. That fire's going now, there's no putting that out.
Those are both videos from the UK. And what's really crazy about this situation is that the government, the prime minister of the UK is speaking out. And when he's speaking out against civilians, he's explaining to them that, hey, we are using facial recognition. And while we are using facial recognition, we are going to identify all of you, and you will regret your decision to participate. What we saw in that video were civilians. This is in Leeds, in Liverpool, in Manchester. It's happening all across the UK. And I haven't seen as much about it read about as much on the news as I would have expected to read. It is absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. And UK, they are lost. Most of Europe is completely lost, completely lost. And the citizens have finally said, we have had enough of these migrants taking over our country. They're sleeping in our streets. They're looting our businesses. They're stealing from us. They're breaking into our homes. They are raping our women. What was it, 2 weeks ago? One of my first shows, I talked about how we had a group of 5 migrants in the UK who raped a woman. And well, actually, it was in Paris, who raped a woman. I mean, in France, again, France is lost. What's going to happen? I mean, if these people don't rise up and stop this, their country is gone. Their way of living is gone. It's already impacted, and it's going to get so much worse. And it's so crazy to me that the government is only calling out the what they call the right wing people, the civilians. They're not saying anything. I haven't heard one message to the migrants saying, "Hey, put down your weapons." These people, as you saw them, they're wearing black. They're wearing masks. They have axes. They have swords. They have machetes. And I'm not even playing the videos that you really need to see. I will share those later today to my Telegram page. You can go to my Telegram page and under tabs on tap, and that is where I share videos and things that I cannot talk about here because I will get deleted. I've already had several shows deleted for talking about violence. So, I don't condone violence. As a matter of fact, I speak against violence. And yet, here we are. Here we are. What do you think about what's happening in our own country? We talked about last week why we had somebody from Venezuela in New York City who left her receipts, her grocery receipt on the counter, and somebody took a photo of it. She had $5,000 in cash in her EBT card. She had over $13,000 in food stamps on her EBT card. This is somebody from Venezuela who is in our country. We have people in our own country starving to death. It's hard to believe that, but there are people in the United States right now starving, children who have no food. And yet this woman from Venezuela who is here illegally has $13,000 in food stamps and $5,000 in cash. Most people don't even have that. Hi, Sherry. I found you on Telegram, but can't see any activity. All right. Well, it's all there. I don't know why. When I look at it, I see everything. I live stream the show there each day and I post a lot of videos and photos and things like that. And I agree. The world needs a Donald Trump to calm the situation. Donald Trump, man, he means business. And I think everyone in the world knows he means business. And I don't know what's going to happen in the UK. I really wonder if the government is going to go out and physically stop the civilians. I really do. Are they going to go out and stop the citizens? Because I don't see how this is going to stop. This is their January 6th in a way. I watched some videos yesterday. Like I said, I'm not going to post them here. I can't play them here. I will put them on my Telegram today. And some of them are fairly graphic because it does show some of these Islamic jihadi migrants is exactly what they are. There's no nicer term to put it. It shows them beating civilians, beating citizens on the street. It shows them being stabbed. And all of these protests began when these three young girls, were attacked and killed by a migrant last week. And people have just said, enough. We have had enough. And what about here in the United States? Just about every day, every other day, I'm reading a story about someone who is here in our country illegally, raping someone, murdering someone. Uh, there was just an incident I just read about over the weekend where we had somebody here illegally who was supposed to be deported 6 years ago, who was out drinking and driving and killed, a young child. When are people? I'm not saying that we need to get out and we need to take to the streets and we need to drag these illegals out of their apartments, because I think we'll know what happens if we all do take to the streets. But when are we going to have had enough? I've always said, and I will continue to say, we as Americans, we will never have had enough until we are sitting in our home with no electricity, with no food, with no gasoline in our vehicles. And then maybe we might wake up a little bit and be like, hey, I've had enough of this. Maybe I need to do something about it. Unfortunately, it is going to take that. It's going to take something happening to you personally before you want to, and I'm not going to say physically fight back. I don't condone any type of violence at all. None whatsoever. But we have to start thinking of ways where we can fight back, because what's happening in the UK, it's going to happen here. It is absolutely going to happen here, because there will be a breaking point for all of us. If we don't somehow get this resolved diplomatically, there will be a breaking point. So many people in the UK, they're just like us. They're trying to live their lives. They want their family to prosper. They're going through the same daily activities we do, just trying to live and enjoy life. And all of a sudden, their country was invaded by, in this case, they allowed them to come there legally, but their country was invaded by migrants. They've changed their entire culture. And you hear people talk about the replacement theory, and I've not really given that a lot of credit, but I'm starting to. Are we being replaced? That sure is the way it looks like what's happening in the UK, over in France. Things are just crazy over there. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. And here in the United States, I'll tell you what, things aren't getting any better. They are not getting any better. Did you guys see the new statistics on people coming over across our southern border illegally under the Biden administration? I have some statistics here for you. Now, they didn't say what time period this is. I'm going to say it's by the day. They might say by the week, but I'm going to say this is by the day based on what I know about illegal border crossings. But either way, boarding crosses surged 1,700% under Biden Harris administration. 1,700%. Because we all know that under Donald Trump, he decreased border crossings by 92%. 92%. So on Trump's last year, we had about 916 illegal crossings, and I'm going to say that's by the day. And now it's up over 20,000. And I think that that is a very minimal number. I really do. Because when you think about the vastness of our southern border, and things have gotten so crazy that under the Biden Harris administration, illegals, they don't run. They have no reason to run anymore unless maybe they're terrorists that don't want to get caught. The Border Patrol, they have stations set up. And when you illegally cross our border, you just walk up calmly. And most of these illegals, they actually just sit and they wait their turn. And they come up to the table and they say, "Hey, this is me. I'm here." They don't have to show any kind of documentation or anything. But when they come up there, they're given vouchers. Sometimes it's for an airplane ride. Sometimes they actually get to take a flight into the city of their choosing. They will give them bus tickets, they give them cash, stipends, they give them vouchers for food. So, of course, they're going to check in. And if you've seen any of these Border Patrol setups, I mean, sometimes the line is very long. So, these people are not necessarily always running and hiding unless they're trafficking, people or trafficking drugs, or if they're terrorists who don't want to be caught. Otherwise, these people, they come up to a table, they register to enter our country illegally, and we open the floodgates and say, "Come on in, come on in, come on in and take advantage of our system and live the life that most Americans would love to live." And, I always wonder, I thought about this on Friday. Is there any country I can escape to? Is there any country out there where I can leave my home today and I can enter their country without any documentation, and they will give me an apartment to live in? They will give me food to eat, an endless supply of food. They will take care of me medically. They will pay for my tuition. They will pay for my childcare. Is there any country that would take me? Because if they would, I think I'm ready to go. I think I've about had it. And I'm kind of at that breaking point, quite honestly. And I think most of you probably are too. It's here in my own town. A lot of you know this. I moved out to the country to a rural area. There's about 6,000 people who live in the area that I'm in right now. That's a pretty small town. And I'll tell you what, we have illegals. They are here. I see them walking up and down the street. We all know who they are. I see them at the store, in this rural area. And that's what's happening is that these sanctuary cities, they want and open their doors to these illegals. But then when they've had too many, guess what happens? They're shipping them to a town near you. And it's not just happening here in my city, it's happening everywhere, absolutely everywhere. And what are we going to do about it? Not a darn thing. That's what we're going to do. And under a Harris administration, what do you think we're going to do? We're going to open the floodgates a little bit wider, aren't we? Because Cami Harris, she is so much further left than Bernie Sanders. She is going to open the floodgates. There is no doubt she believes in open borders, no doubt in my mind. That's why, as the borders are, she didn't do anything. Why? Because she doesn't care. Does not care. Monica says we have sleeper cells. We absolutely have sleeper cells. I can almost promise you. I don't care where you live. You can live in the most remote spot in the United States, and there are sleeper cells near you. No doubt in my mind. You know, it, Speaking of Harris, she has not chosen a vice president yet. Who's it going to be? Who is going to be her VP? I mean, the convention's coming up. The DNC convention is from August the 19th through August the 22nd. So that is coming up faster than we know. And who is it going to be? Is it going to be Minnesota Governor Walz? Is it going to be Josh Shapiro? She had Shapiro and Walls to her home this weekend for dinner. So do think it's kind of she's starting to streamline and cut to the chase and get to the person. I don't know who it's going to be, and whoever it is isn't going to matter. Landon says, "Have you seen the information on Harris's dad?" I did, and I wasn't going to talk about it, but I can possibly pull it up and talk about it. I do have it here. Let's see. We'll just get into this a little bit since you brought it up, Landon. This is somebody sent this to me, and this is the history of Kamala Harris is where this came from. This is written, okay, and I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to read some bits and pieces. This was written to give it some credibility by Jeffrey Higginbottom, Major General in the U.S. Marine Corps, retired. So, who presumably knows a lot about Kamala Harris. So I'm just going to read the first paragraph, then I'm going to kind of stick around, skip around. Let's see here if I can get my phone to cooperate. It says, for your knowledge and interest about the Biden Vice President Kamala Harris, here is a timely editorial that exposes the hidden background of Kamala Harris from the Combat Veterans for Congress Political Action Committee that is posted here with the permission of the author. So the CVFC PAC supports the election of U.S. military combat veterans to the U.S. Senate and House of Representatives. And then the editorial begins. And I shared this on my Facebook page already, so you can go there and check it out. Kamala Harris's father was an avowed Marxist professor in the economics department at Stanford University in Palo Alto, California. Both of Harris's parents were active in the Berkeley-based Afro-American Association. Fidel Castro and Che Guevara were the heroes of the African American Association. So I think a lot of us have heard that her parents were both Marxists. I don't think that's too new of information, but it's very important to point out to people. So the group's leader, Donald Warden, whose name AKA is Khalid al-Mansour, mentored two young Afro-American Association members, Huey Newton and Bobby Seale. They created the Maoist-inspired Black Panther Party, which gained strong support from communist China. Yes, I think there's no doubt that Harris is for sure a full-blown communist. And it says, following her graduation from college, Harris returned to California, subsequently became the mistress of the 60-year-old married Speaker of the California Assembly, Willie Brown Jr. Brown's political campaigns were supported and funded by Dr. Carlton Goodlett, owner of the Sun Reporter, and several other pro-communist newspapers. So the article goes on to talk about how, due to her association with Willie Brown Jr., she was able to secure her position as Attorney General of California, and how she mentored young activists, Maoist activists, communist, Marxist. I mean, there's no question about it. You guys can go and read a little bit more about this. Harris's husband, Doug Emhoff, works for the law firm DLA Piper, which boasts nearly 30 years of experience in communist China, with over 140 lawyers dedicated to Communist China Investment Services branch. And of course, he was just promoted as a professor at Yale. That tells us everything we want to know. And Landon says that nut doesn't fall from the tree. Before I even read this, before I ever even saw this, there was no doubt in my mind about Harris being a full-blown communist. But something that I am wondering about, and I'm sure some of you have heard, that Donald Trump has challenged Kamala Harris to a debate on September the 4th, I believe it is, on Fox News. Well, Harris's campaign said no, they are not going to debate. And she did release a little bit more of a statement on that. And let's see here. I will find that and read that to you, but it's not going to happen. I mean, they do not want to debate. So Harris came back out and said, let's see here. So Harris came back out and said, well, Donald Trump, we're not going to debate on your stage. We're still holding the debate on ABC on, I think it was September the 10th. And if you want to join us, I'll be there. But Trump, retorted back that he cannot debate Harris on ABC because he has filed a lawsuit against ABC. So he is trying to move the debate over to Fox. You know, Kim says, yeah, because she'd lose her ASS handed to her. There's no question about it. We've all seen Harris debate. Remember, she was the first one out back in the primary when she debated. Even Cory Booker even said she was one of the worst debaters he had ever seen. She is terrible. There's no doubt. There's no way they can even coach her well enough to be able to debate. But something I was really wondering about, I did you guys see the photo from Harris's rally? I'm going to show this to you. Why is everyone holding up? Why is everyone holding up a sign that says Michelle? I mean, does that mean something? Is there something that maybe I'm missing because I do not understand it? I There has to be a reason why this is happening. It wasn't a mistake. So take a look at this photo. Do you see this? Why is everyone holding up a sign that says Michelle? And if you look at this photo closely, I don't know how well you can see it. It goes all the way up into the upper levels. Everyone has a sign that says Michelle. What does that mean? I don't understand it. I mean, are all of these people, all of these Democrats at her rally, are they trying to say that they want Michelle Obama to be the VP? And Harris, of course, has this big smile on her face. I don't really know what to make of it. And I don't know that anyone else knows what to make of it. I absolutely do not believe that Harris will choose Michelle Obama to be her VP. I will never believe that. I don't think that Michelle Obama wants to be a VP. I don't think Michelle Obama wants any part of this election. I don't think Michelle Obama needs to be the vice president because I think we all know that Harris is not going to be running the country. That's not going to happen. We're going to have the Marxists in the back room, the shadow government, the deep state, however you want to refer to them. Those are the folks who are going to be running the government. So Michelle and Obama, they will have their say without having to be in the spotlight. I don't believe for 1 minute that either Obama wants to get involved in this election. They don't need to, because all of their ideas, all of their agendas, all of their 30-year plan, it's all in the works without them ever having to step a foot into a meeting or do anything else. Or all in the back room. And Brenda says, is that a doctored photo? I don't think so. I don't think it is a doctored photo. I looked at it very cautiously, and it's been shared, quite a few times. And I've not seen anything to say that it's a doctored photo, but, I could be wrong. I don't think so, though. But it does make me wonder what's going on. But either way, Harris is going to have to make a decision very soon, very soon. I don't think that she has, a choice. Things are moving so incredibly quickly. But the biggest question is she going to be elected? Is Trump going to be elected? Is there even going to be an election at all? I think we have to keep fighting. I know there's going to be some elections coming along in some other areas. We've all been talking about what's happening in the state of Missouri. And I don't have a lot to say about Missouri elections, but I do want to talk about some very general election points because so many people are going to be heading to the polls, and there are so many things and warnings I think we all need to heed. Our local elections are the most important thing we can vote in because our votes really do make a difference there at your local elections. If you have the ability to vote, you absolutely need to go out and cast your vote in these local elections. And it's a tough one. I have my own picks. I am no longer a Missouri voter, but I certainly have my own picks. And people ask me every day, well, what do you think? Is it going to be for a Missouri governor? Is it going to be Eigel? Is it going to be Ashcroft? Someone else? I don't think it would be anyone else. I think it's going to be either Eigel or Ashcroft. I personally really like Eigel. If I were to vote in a Missouri election right now, I would be voting for Eigel. But I do worry, as do others, that Ashcroft is just the bigger name. And so I think that's going to be a really, really close one. I really do. And, I've met them both. I've interviewed them both. I think they're both good people. I just think I like Eigel's policies a little bit better. So we'll see what happens there. But some things to really think about. I also talked to the Lincoln County for the election, Bill Womack, who is running for Lincoln County Sheriff. Great guy. If you have the opportunity, definitely vote Bill Womack. I think he's absolutely fantastic. And so many of my friends, law enforcement officers, are backing Bill. So keep that in mind as well. Now, when you go to the polls, what has happened in the past, right? You go to the polls. I remember a couple years ago, everybody's like, oh, I went to the polls and they gave me a black marker. Do not use a marker. Take your own pen. If you are heading to the polls, take your own pen with you. Then there's no excuse for any of that to happen. Do not write on your ballot. If there's a category that for whatever reason you don't feel that you're educated about that particular race, leave it blank. Leave it completely blank. Don't and whatever you do, don't choose someone when you don't know. Don't take a guess and just fill in someone's name just because you want to fill it in. Do not do that. If there is a particular race that you're not sure of, you don't know who to vote for, then don't vote for that particular race. Leave it blank. Do not put no. Do not mark through it. Do not put any type of marking on your ballot at all. Nothing. And as you take your ballot up to be counted, do not to be processed. Don't let them mark on your ballot either. If you see anyone else mark on your ballot, take it back, ask for a new ballot. I know that's a huge, huge pain. Womack, did I not say Womack, Sherry? I thought I did. Um, anyway, so when you go to the polls, make sure that you take your own pen. Make sure you do not write on your ballot. Do not let anyone else write on your ballot. Make sure that if you're not sure about a race, leave it blank. If you are sure, make sure you mark it in very carefully, because your vote does count. We have to make sure this is where it all starts, right? The Kamala Harrises, they get to where they are because of local elections. And they started a long. Oh, I see, Sherry. Thank you. I thought you were correcting me. She was correcting herself. And I say because I spoke with Bill, and I was really hoping to have Bill on the show. Again, he's running for Lincoln County Sheriff. He's a phenomenal person, and I really do hope. I'm really hoping and praying that he gets the win in that particular election. And I was hoping to have him on, but as you can see, all the crazy technical things I have going on, that was not going to happen. Not going to happen. But either way, I wanted to make sure I threw that out there. So you know what? And if you come up with any inconsistencies at your polling location, please let me know, because last time around, people emailed me a lot of different things, and I tried to cover all of the bases. And most of what I heard was people coming in with markers, or the polling location giving you markers, and uh, sometimes people writing on your ballot. No one should write on your ballot. We have to pay attention, because these local elections mean everything. I will be the first person to tell you, in a federal election, it is crazy. I don't believe a darn thing they do is right. I think it's all cheating. I don't think our votes count. I don't even know why they allow us to vote, quite honestly. It's the freedom, the illusion of choice is what that is. When you go to the poll, to cast your presidential nomination, it means not a darn thing, unfortunately. But we still have to do it so we have a paper trail. But your local elections are different. Stacy says make sure it's a black ink pen. Fill it in completely. Thank you, Stacy. That is absolutely correct. And these local elections mean everything. Please make sure you take the time out to go and cast your vote in your local elections, because I'm telling you what, Missourians, for those of you in Missouri, and this goes really for cities across the country, we are becoming a more progressive country every single day. Never did I think. I'm from Chicago. I moved to St. Louis County back in 1986. And of course, I was, a teenager then. And things were so different in St. Louis County back then. And I have seen the change in St. Louis County. St. Louis City, in my opinion, was kind of always lost, unfortunately. But even though it has changed drastically there as well, St. Louis County, for one, so many people don't go out and vote at all. I think the voting's a little bit better in St. Charles and Jefferson counties and other parts of Missouri. St. Louis County has become so progressive that if you live in St. Louis County and you don't get out and cast your vote, you have no reason to complain when you have lost your values. The people who are becoming elected in St. Louis County, I mean, it's going to be as bad as the city at some point. And St. Charles, man, you're on the brink. If you live in St. Charles County, you better get out and vote, because you guys are on the brink as well. Because guess what happened during COVID? all of those liberal folks moved to St. Charles County. And so you absolutely have to. I was shocked one time when I heard about St. Charles County and some of the mayors and how they were all for these apartments, opening up. They were all for these corporate, owned homes that are being leased, and how, they're voting to bring all these different people in from St. Louis City and St. Louis County, and the HUD housing that's taking place, in your own neighborhood. Man, you've got to get to the polls. You have to do your part, because this is where it starts. You know, I- we see what's happening in the UK. We see what's happening in Bangladesh. We see what's happening all across the world. These things are happening because we, back in the day, were too complacent. It's our own fault. We didn't get to the polls. We didn't do what we were supposed to do. And now we have no choice. We have to do it now or never. So that's something to think about. And you can't count on the GOP. Did you hear about this? 30 GOP members, Republicans, they have established a group called Republicans for Harris. This is not a joke. I have their names. I am just shocked for it. 30 GOP members, Republicans for Harris. And man, I also just got some breaking news. The Dow has fallen by 1,000 points upon recession fears. And we're still going to get into that. I have a lot to talk about when it comes to that as well. So I want to read these names to you, because I think most of us know we've already been in a recession. Recession, that's the big word of the day. But for most of us, we already know we've been in a recession for quite some time. So when they say recession, it really means depression. We've already been through recession. So I want to name these names to you, because this is so important. These people are the enemy. They are the enemy of the state, because if these Republicans, these GOP members could form a group called Republicans for Harris, it just makes me absolutely sick. And they've even created a website. They've all endorsed Kamala Harris at this point. This is unbelievable. So here are the names of the traitors. We will go through each and every one of them. Most of these will not surprise you. But I mean, who goes against their own party? Do you hear any Democrats coming out with Trump, Trump for president, Democrats for Trump? This is crazy. These people have lost their minds. So here are the endorsements that have been received from GOP members. Unbelievable. White House officials Stephanie Grisham and Olivia Troy. Former Secretaries Chuck Hagel and Ray LaHood. Former governors Jim Edgar, Bill Weld, Christine Todd Whitman, and former Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan. Former members of Congress. So we have Rod Chandler, Tom Coleman, Dave Emery, Wayne Gilchrist, Jim Greenwood, Adam Kinzinger. No surprise there. His own family doesn't like him. John Lebatoulier, am I saying that right? Susan Molinari, Jack Quinn, Denver Riggleman, Claudine Schneider, Christopher Shays, Peter Smith, Alan Steelman, David Trott, Joe Walsh. Then we have Mesa, Arizona Mayor John Giles, former GOP state chair and state senator Chris Vance, Reed Howard of the Young Republicans, former RNC delegate Rena Shah, and there are so many more that people I've never even heard of. These people are traitors. I mean, they're traitors. They formed a group called Republicans for Harris. These are why local elections are important, because at some point in the past, these people got elected to the Republican Party, to these different positions. And no wonder our country is a mess. These people claim to be Republicans, but yet it's not like they're casting a vote for somebody like RFK Jr., who's a moderate Democrat. They are casting a vote. They're casting their endorsement for a for somebody who's currently a VP, who would be the most liberal, far left, communist president we could ever have in this country. It's insane. These people, Linda says she's so disappointed with Jim Edgar. I'm disappointed in all of them. It makes me sick. It makes me sick. And uh, if you know any of these people, if you know who these people are, go back and look at that list. I want you to call their office, send them letters, inundate them, call them the traitors that they are, because they are absolutely traitors to this country. And I've said many times, I'll say it many times again, I don't even like to call myself a Republican. I wish that the independent party was bigger than it is and that the independent could have a candidate that would win. I kind of consider Trump to be an independent. The GOP, they don't like Trump. They never did. So I mean, I guess it's no big surprise. The RNC, they don't like Trump. They never did. The Freedom Caucus, they fight for us with every fiber of their being. We need more of that. Of course, the leftists say hate the Freedom Caucus. But hey, so Monica says RFK Jr. is not a moderate, but he does love America. Well, he's definitely more moderate than Harris is. Harris is going to turn this country inside out. Whatever is left of it, she's going to turn it inside out. Will there be anything left? That's what I want to know. Will there even be anything left? Because we see where we are now, don't we? I mean, it's just crazy. I don't know what's going to happen to our country. Our stock market plummeting, plummeting. Friday was a bad day. Today, as expected, an even worse day. I get alerts on my own stock, and I've been getting alerts all morning. This is down 9%, something else down 7%, 6%. And now we hear, down 1,000 points today. And obviously, there's talks of recession. A lot of it has to do with the employment numbers. There was a lot going on when it came to, they released a report last week. You know, I think we all know, at least I know, you don't have to agree with me, that the numbers have been wrong anyway, haven't they? Because I think we know that what Biden's administration was doing is when we shut down for COVID, all of these people were out of work. All of these people lost their jobs. And as the situation improved and more people started going back to work, we created more jobs. I mean, that's natural, right? Uh, Jobs were way down, then they started going way up. So economists expected to hear on Friday that there would be 185,000 people hired. Well, it turned out to be 114,000, and that's all it takes to completely sink the stock exchange. And so what's happening today is we have the fear of war, World War III, right around the corner, probably imminent. We have the jobs report scaring people. And you know what? Again, I feel like we've been in a recession for a really long time. I think what's really happening right now is a depression. I think it's far, far from what they're saying that it's going to be. And, of course, the Biden administration, they would never admit that we've already in a period of overinflation, that we were already in that period of recession. And Dottie says, right behind Japan. Man, Japan took a huge hit in the market today. And we're doing the same. And there's a lot of different things going on. I don't know if you guys heard, but Warren Buffett, a lot of people follow what he does. I think it was Friday, he sold 58% of his Apple stock. And that's a big amount to let go of. And then after that, I'm always thinking, well, why did he do that? Because I try to follow what he does. And then I saw the report immediately after that, which makes me know this man is connected. I mean, these people, they know what's going on. And he knew to sell that when he did, because guess what? Right after that, Russia announced that they are going to ban iOS, they're going to ban Google, they're going to ban Android. And there's no question with if Apple can't sell products in Russia, and if Russia's doing that, then a lot of the other BRICS countries will probably follow suit. And so what do you expect is going to happen? Todd says, where do we put our money? I have never trusted the stock market from day one. It's a pyramid scam. If you don't invest a lot of money, you're not going to make money. I invest little here and there, and I don't make very much. A little blip here and there, but I would say and I'm no financial expert, so don't take my financial advice. If it were me, what I'm going to be doing, what I have been doing, is invest in yourself, invest in your family. Now is the time, if there was a time, to be prepared, because there's going to be a lot of things that have happened. Friday, of course, we had a lot of these analysts, a lot of financial advisors are taking all of their clients money, all these wealth managers, and they're moving it into safe assets. They're pulling down the hatches and they're saying, hey, we're going to take your money, we're going to put it where it's safe because we know we have a lot of volatility coming up. A lot of people I know don't even have any money in the stock market. Again, it's a game for the wealthy, not so much for the middle class or folks who make a little bit less money. I think we have to invest money in ourselves. Something I spend a lot of time thinking about, and I think you guys should too, is how do you make your own life more profitable? If you have land, and I'm going to get into much more about this over the coming days. And Tammy says, in your mattress. I'm telling you what, I think anyone who has a lot of money in the bank right now is crazy. Go take your money out of the bank. Keep enough money in your bank where you can maybe pay your bills. But if you don't have enough money in there, it's not earning much interest. Take your money out. And quite honestly, Tammy, you're right. In your mattress is far better in the bank because if the market continues to collapse, if we end up in a war, there's a very good possibility that some of the banks could close. We know that the banking system already is at such a point to where they're on the verge of collapse anyway. And I thought about this over the weekend after seeing what was happening in Bangladesh and what was happening over in the UK, that if you only have one bank account, if you only use one bank, and things get really crazy, they're going to really limit how much money you can take out of an ATM. It could be limited to the day, it could be limited to how much you can take out at one transaction. And Todd says, will the dollar be worth? The dollar's already pretty much worth nothing. And that's why I said you have to try to invest in yourself. Right now, you need to protect your dollars while they are worth at least something. I think the dollar's down over 42% now, uh, which is insane. It was 38%, I guess, a year ago, and it's gone down that much. The dollar is losing its value very quickly. And if we end up in World War III, it's going to lose its value a lot more. And we have a lot of assets working against us. We have to start thinking of ways to make ourselves profitable. There are so many different ways. I'm going to go off on a tangent here that I wasn't really planning on talking about today, that I was planning on talking about another day. Something that I belong to a lot of different communities where people are getting prepared for the future, not necessarily for yourself, but for your children. And one of the things you can do, which isn't going to help you today, but you can go out and collect hickory nuts. Believe it or not, you can go to almost any park in the country and collect hickory nuts. And this will help you next year. It will help you in a couple months. Hickory nuts are free. As a matter of fact, last night I have a lot of hickory trees at my own home, but there are some varieties I don't have. I went to a park last night and I found some hickory trees and I picked up quite a few hickory nuts. And as crazy as this may sound, you can cold stratify those hickory nuts and you can grow seedlings. You can sell those seedlings to people in your community, people all across the country. And the market right now is really high for the price of hickory nut seedlings. And the reason why is people are thinking two different things. For one, some people want to plant hickory nuts because they want the nuts for their own foraging reasons, maybe to make products, to sell, whatever they might want to do. Some people want to grow hickory trees so that they can someday sell them for lumber. So there's a lot of different things. And there are people out there right now, believe it or not, you might not even know this, who are investing thousands upon thousands of dollars buying different types of trees to grow on their property. And that's going to be a big market. It already is a big market. And as people catch on, it's going to become a bigger market. And that's a free resource for you to go out to a park and pick up some hickory nuts or some pine nuts and grow your own tree seedlings. You can sell those. Start thinking outside of the box. You can right now start getting ready for next spring. You can start getting your seeds together. You can get your growing materials together and start thinking about in the spring. Hopefully, if you can afford to, get a greenhouse. You can start planting your seeds. You can sell those plants online or in your community. Most people would rather buy heirloom seeds, heirloom vegetables and fruits than they would what they're going to find at a Walmart or at a Home Depot Sell them yourself. Ooh, right now, if you get ready, you'll have all your supplies. February, start planting your seeds, start getting things ready. I'm going to be talking a lot about that between now and then. And I didn't plan on talking about it today, so I'm kind of throwing it in spur of the moment. But start thinking about ways you can make money for yourself, that you can make money outside of a job. Because if a depression hits, which is more than a recession, if we end up in World War III, you're going to have to be very creative, because guess what's going to happen right now? Companies are scared. They're going to start reducing the hours of employees. They already started. About a month ago, people started messaging me saying my hours are reduced. People in my own family have had hours reduced. People are worried about losing their jobs. Companies are going to start, they're going to start layoffs. And so you have to start thinking, what am I going to do next? And Tammy says fruit trees. Yes, you can start saving seeds right now for fruit trees. I've been planting fruit trees. I already have hickory trees. I'm going to plant more hickory trees. And, some of these trees, I always think, this is the way my brain thinks anyway, is every time I pick up a hickory nut, I think, well, there's $1,000, there's $10,000, because that's what each one of these are going to be worth once I plant them and then once they start growing. And in the short term, once you have a seedling that starts to grow, you can sell it online for anywhere from, 15 to $25. You can sell one of these seedlings. So start thinking outside of the box and what you can do. Start thinking about not only growing your own food for yourself, but for your community, because there's a lot of people who don't have the resources to grow food, who don't have the resources to grow trees, or who just simply don't have the time, but they're willing to buy them from you. So then spring comes around, and guess what? You're going to have a lot of seedlings that you can give to people to start their own gardens, because trust me, we're going to need them. So just start trying to think outside of the box. But Todd, as far as what people are going to do with their money today, outside of bringing it home, and as Tammy said, sticking it under your mattress, I don't know. I don't know. There's nothing that I can think of you can invest in. Gold is down. The heavy metals are down. There's really nothing out there right now that I don't think is a great investment. Bitcoin is down right now. Crypto's down just in general. There's really nothing getting too crazy. I think we really have to just hold tight. Me personally, my advice would be, if you have money, and I know people say don't take your money out of the bank, because that's exactly what causes banks to collapse. But you know what? You also have to start thinking ahead of the time and be ahead of the game, because banking is also a pyramid scheme. Sorry, the bank doesn't really have that much money. So you have this money, your neighbor has this money. The bank really doesn't have all that money. It's just slips on a screen. So when people start coming and rushing the banks and taking their money out, the people who rush the banks first are the people who get their money. The folks who wait till the end, who are holding out hope, they don't get their money. So that's something to think about too, because even though we can tell ourselves, hey, let's not rush the bank, let's not lead to the collapse of a bank. Well, guess what? If you're not the first person in line, you may not get your money. And that happened. And I learned this lesson the hard way, because that's exactly what happened to me when it came to crypto. I, invested a lot into crypto, and people were selling out, selling out, selling out. I'm like, I'm not going to sell out. I'm holding till the end. Well, I held to the end. And then guess what happened? I lost my crypto because the people who sell first, the people who get the money first, they're the ones holding the money in their hands. Those of us who say I'm holding out for principle, we end up losing. So keep that in mind. And I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but things are not looking good today. I really hope that tomorrow I can start out the show on a little bit of a better note and have a little bit happier things to say, because we need some good news. I don't know if there is any. Some of the other things I kind of wanted to get into outside of the stock market, because we really need to watch the stock market today. It's not, as of last time I checked, not a bear market yet. That is when the assets go down past 20%. We're not there yet. I believe they are still in the less than 10% range. So that's something to keep an eye on. But as things get closer and things escalate further between Israel and Iran, I think we're going to see stock prices drop further. I think we're going to see a lot of companies backtracking, thinking about again reducing hours, laying employees off. We're going to see a lot of manufacturing stop, and people are going to start gearing up for the other sectors because you're going to continue to see, of course, the Lockheed Martin stock go up and other defense contracts and that type of thing. Todd said, don't they close it at that point? I'm guessing you're talking about banks, maybe. I'm not sure. Anyway, there's a lot of other stuff to talk about. It's so depressing, really. I hate to even talk about any of it because things are so crazy. I don't know if they're going to get any better, and that worries me. At least not in the near future. So before we end today, we are going to talk about some positive energy also. I wanted to throw this in there because I actually think it's kind of humorous at my point. Have you guys, you obviously know what's going on in Venezuela. We've talked about it numerous times here. Again, protesters taken to the streets, civilians, people who have had enough, because that's the theme of the day, isn't it? Civilians, citizens who have had enough of their government. Well, the people, as you know, in Venezuela have had enough. Even Antony Blinken, our own Secretary of State, has said that this election in Venezuela was not valid. Maduro is not their legal president. Gonzalez is their true president. Gonzalez, of course, in hiding. But Maduro has been very outspoken against Elon Musk for some reason. I continue to read statements from him, and it kind of cracks me up in a way because his latest statement this weekend is he claims that the protests that are taking place in Venezuela were propagated by gringos. This is a quote, gringos and Elon Musk. And Elon Musk, he retorted and said, "Okay, Maduro, what color jumpsuit would you like to wear in Gitmo?" Which was, I think, hilarious. So it's really strange that, and Elon Musk should probably really watch out. He probably has a target on his head at this point. It's so strange to me that we have Elon Musk, who is what, the creator of Tesla, of Starlink, of obviously sending rockets up into space, but why is he on Maduro's mind? Why does Nicolas Maduro, who is the newly elected president of Venezuela, why is he paying so much attention to Elon Musk? If there was anyone I want to blame for things going on around the world or something that would be happening in my country, it wouldn't be Elon Musk. It's a really weird thing. And he made several statements to him last week. So I wanted to make sure I threw that in there because I think it's so odd. And if I were Elon Musk, I would really be worried about what's going on right now because I would consider myself to have a target on my head. Did you guys see that there were some Chinese nationals arrested in Texas? And I haven't really seen this anywhere. And I'm going to pull up and tell you exactly what these folks had because it's alarming. We know we have people in our country doing things they shouldn't be doing. And when it comes to China, I'm always worried about what's going on. So this was in Van Zant County, Texas. Two Chinese nationals, they were arrested, and in their possession was $250,000 worth of gold bars. Now, this was a traffic stop on I-20. This took place on Thursday. And why do we have two Chinese nationals traveling around Texas with bars of gold? $250,000 worth of bars of gold. I absolutely do not believe that these Chinese nationals are in Texas to invest, or I don't think they're gold collectors. What are they doing? Who are they trying to pay? Because that's what they do. I think most of you are awake enough to know that when underhanded deals take place, they usually do pay in gold because cash can be traced, gold cannot. And a lot of times when they pay terrorists or when they pay other, you can guess some different criminal activities that could potentially be taking place. They do it in gold. So I believe that these two Chinese nationals were in Texas using these gold bars to pay someone, but for what? Will we ever know? Maybe not. But we do definitely need to keep on top of that. because I think it's awfully strange that they were also in Texas, which of course is where we have, and very near to our southern border crossings. Were they paying for were they paying for border crossings? Were they paying for some of their folks who have ill will towards us to cross the border? Todd said it's for boarding crossment payments. I absolutely do believe that. I'm trying not to say it, but I do believe it. Is it possible that China is also coordinating an attack with Iran against the United States? Are they there to pay for terror activities? I would not be surprised at all because, as I said at the beginning of the show, and if you guys missed that, you can go back, of course, and replay it. I talked a lot about Iran and what's going on over there and a coordinated strike. It is absolutely, my opinion, imminent. Imminent. It's going to happen. Yesterday, today, didn't happen overnight like I expected it to. It will happen. Iran is going to coordinate with Hezbollah and Hamas and likely the Houthis, and they are going to, for sure, attack Israel and very likely will attack us as well as the strong supporters and allies of Israel. So, would Russia, would China get involved? You bet they will. You bet they will, because they are all allies. And as I said earlier, I have a list of countries who have already sent out their words of support to Iran. And there were so many countries. When I was going to read the list, I'm like, it's easier just to say that pretty much every country outside of the United States and Europe are all on the side of Iran. So that's something to think about. And before we get to talking about positive thinking, which we are going to talk about, have you guys been keeping up with the Olympics and that whole situation with Algerian? I don't have my notes with me, but Amin Khalif. It turns out, and I kind of felt bad that we talked about this on Friday, and we talked about the situation with her boxing and having the XY chromosomes. Well, then we found out that she is a female. She's been raised a female her entire life. She has a disorder that causes her to have the XY chromosomes. A lot of people are backtracking and feeling bad about their statements and feeling that she's been dealt a very unfair hand, which she has in life, no question about it. I can't imagine what it would be like to grow up having a disorder that gives you XY chromosomes, but yet you are a female and feel like a female and seem like a female. But at the same time, it doesn't really change the principle of things. In my opinion, it doesn't. I hate it for her. I don't want her to be ridiculed. I feel really bad about any of that. But she still does have the XY chromosome. She still does have the musculature of a male. She still has the endurance of a male. She still, in my opinion, should not be boxing against other females. But that's not why I'm talking about this. I'm trying to talk about the irony that the two men, or the two people with the XY chromosomes who are boxing in the Olympics in the women's boxing, have defeated everyone else. I mean, and so now what are we going to have? What are we going to have? Two men competing for the Olympic medals for women's boxing. I I read that this morning and I was looking at the post. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? It's just like how we have these beauty pageants, right? Miss America, and a man wins. It's like, what a discredit to women. We as females, we have fought so hard to play sports. We have fought so hard to win in many different categories. And all of a sudden now we have men who are women saying they are women to get into these different competitions, and they're beating us. So now all of a sudden, you as a woman, you're not good enough for a women's competition. They have to bring a man in to win a women's competition. Why aren't the feminists talking about this? I do not get it. It's driving me crazy. And we're going to be talking more about that as the situation progresses. But I almost feel like I'm living in some weird alternative world where nothing makes sense anymore. Nothing makes sense. So, on a final note, I want to talk about positive thinking because obviously, man, things are bad. Things are bad, and they're only getting worse. And I think we all have to take a few deep breaths. We all have to calm ourselves internally. We all have to start thinking and praying and trying to get this positive energy out in the world because I'm kind of to the point now where I don't think voting helps. I don't think electing the right people, I think it's too late for all of that. I don't think this presidential election is gonna do anything for us at all. I think it's so rigged against Trump that's never he is never gonna be elected. I have always said he got his foot in his door for us, and once that door closed, they were never gonna let him back in, and I still believe that. I think now it comes down to the power of prayer and the power of positive thinking to try to get us into a place where we need to be. And I'm going to play a video and I'm going to tell you that I have absolutely no clue who this guy is, but I loved what he was saying and I think we all need to take a little note from him and we all have to do our best to put some positive vibes out there because if we all come together, I absolutely believe in the power of prayer. I absolutely believe in the power of positive thinking and if we can clear our minds and we can all universally put that message out there, I think it's going to help us a lot more than casting our vote. So we're going to listen to some wise words right here.
Come out of fear, center yourself, and mean it. Send out love and gratitude and blessings into the world to everyone. People want to see a direct effect, an immediate effect, you know? They don't understand that this energy goes out in ripples to infinity. You send out blessings, forgiveness, love, kindness, send it out to everyone, into the universe. It will affect everyone. Don't worry about you getting a direct response. You do that and the response will be indicated in yourself. You will feel better.
No question, right? Absolutely no question. You know, I have done so much research. I've put so much thought into the power of positivity, into the power of prayer. Now, me personally, I said this earlier, I think that the energy we expel, the negative, if you put out a lot of negative energy, only negative things happen to you. If you put out that positive energy, positive things happen. And it's the same as the power of prayer. People say, well, you know, I was prayed for and a miracle occurred. You know why? Because the power of prayer is exactly that. When people come together and you're praying for, let's say, one specific person, that's a lot of positive energy, a lot of prayer that is surrounding that person. And I think that we can change anything in our lives and maybe anything in the world if we all can collectively together let go of all the negative energy, concentrate on the positives, try to pull all of that through, and just put out every blessing we have out into the world and hope for peace. You know, that's all we can do right now is pray for peace. I don't know what's going to happen over the next couple days. You know, we're certainly going to talk about it. I know I started late today. I was having some technical issues, as you all know, and I'm going a little bit over now. So, with that being said, please do your best. Put some positive energy out there. You know, definitely get out, cast your vote, but more than anything, pray for peace. Pray that pray that we can get out of this situation with Iran. We're going to have to put everything we have into that because our government is working against us. They're working against us. So we have to do our part. With that said, thank you for joining me today on Tabs on Tap. And again, Todd wrote down the phone number earlier. I'm going to add it again. If you want to text me, we have a show text line now. It is 314-546-2677. Feel free to text me, and I'm hopefully by tomorrow can take phone calls if anybody wants to call in. I'm going to work on that today. And I really hope all of you have a good day. Thank you so much for joining me. And I really do appreciate all of your support. And tomorrow, I have a feeling is even going to be a bigger news day today after we see where the stock market ends, where things escalate or de-escalate with Iran and Israel. So I hope all of you manage to have a really good day. Think about some ideas. If you have any ideas of how people can invest their money, things you can do for yourself, that's something I'm going to be talking a little bit about each day this week because anything from micro farms to homesteading to a lot of people, you know, having carts out in front of their house with baked goods and jams and jellies and Start thinking outside of the box, because that is the only way we are going to get ahead. You have to think outside of the box. All right, guys, that's it for today. I hope you all have a wonderful day,